Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and you join us here today with the 2026 Kia Sportage X Pro Prestige. And of course, we're gonna go take this on a drive. If you haven't watched our full tour and review, definitely go have a watch at that video. But in this video, we're gonna go take this refreshed Kia Sportage on a drive. We have a new front fascia, and of course, since this is an X Pro, we are getting some aggressive tire stuff going on over here as well. Nonetheless, so let's go hop inside and see what we're dealing with. Getting inside the 2026 Kia Sportage, we're gonna turn on our vehicle here. Starts up right quick to life, and of course we have a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine here. Now, this is not a new engine, it's a carryover engine actually from the pre-facelift. You can get the hybrid or plug-in hybrid, not in this model with this off-road spec. We have an 8-speed automatic gearbox down here, which is great. We have hill descent control as well. And of course, we have terrain modes and drive modes over here, which are great to use. And they're now located on the steering wheel. So we have sport, my drive, normal. We also are getting a snow, mud, and sand mode as well in this vehicle, which I think is a really wonderful touch. So let's pop it into drive. We have great reverse cameras as well, 360 cameras all around this vehicle. We even have that good old 360 mode as well. Let's go see how it handles being out and around the town before we go take it on the highway and see what kind of features we're getting there. Now, off the bat, like I mentioned, this is a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. Now, it's making only around like 187-ish horsepower, which isn't anything too bold or crazy, but I think that's just a fine amount of power. For this vehicle, it's only really on the highway is where you're gonna notice it kind of, gets a little bit sluggish in some cases. Otherwise, I think it's pretty fine around town. The 8-speed's a lot nicer, I think, to use generally than a CVT. I think it's tuned pretty well. Just in some cases, I feel like it just kind of carries a gear just a little too long for me. But otherwise, it's really a fine transmission. Now, around town cases, we have our wonderful blind spot cameras, which makes turning and seeing over your side really great. This is also a really great feature on the highway. And what I really like about this new steering wheel, other than it heats up incredibly quickly, is the turning ratio and the steering ratio is actually doesn't feel at least that slow to me. And what that means is, turn to lock is only like 2 or 3 turns to lock. So making adjustments in a tight parking spot or just maneuvering around town is a pretty quick process. So you feel like generally quite a responsiveness from this front end. That could also be from these thicker, chunkier BF Goodrich all-terrain tires we have on this vehicle, a little bit more different feel than a typical Sportage may have, a little bit more of some heft going on there. But I think I like it. It has an overall pretty nice driving experience, I would have to say. Now, we have an insane amount of safety features on this vehicle, a lot of which are now standard, which is great, but being this is the fully loaded model, you're getting them all anyways. So at around 42 grand, I think the amount of stuff you're getting in this car is quite nice. We have parking sensors, blind spot, steering assist, lane keep assist. We have our full highway driving assist as well. All that works really great. What's also nice about this vehicle is it's actually a pretty soft ride overall. Now, shockingly, Kia did not really change the suspension for this X Pro Prestige model, even though it's a sort of off-road-esque model, which I think they should have. I think that would have been a little bit more of a more serious tone to this, but I think they weren't going for a more serious off-roader. They were kind of going a little bit more towards this soft off-road class of vehicle that is exploding right now in the market. Hear that 4-cylinder wind itself out there. And what I have noticed in this particular one is every start I get off, we have traction on all 4 wheels. Only in some cases on a highway scenario is it when that we really see it just being more front-wheel drive bias. So I'm curious to see if this all-wheel drive system in this X Pro model is a little bit more active at all times versus the other Kia Sportage models, just to give you that little extra reassurance of traction in this particular vehicle. Going around corners, it handles itself pretty well, nothing to write home about, very composed. I think my closest comparison to this would be almost like a Subaru Forester kind of vehicle. You have your Mazda CX-50 and the CX-5, which are like the sporty bunch of this entire pack of vehicles. And then you go into the more run-of-the-mill vehicles in terms of their handling characteristics of, you know, the Nissan Rogues, the Honda CR-Vs, which handles themselves pretty well, and the Toyota RAV4, which I personally do not think drives the best. This, I think, kind of splits the line just a little bit more. It's a little bit more neutral in its handling, but it also has a little bit of some nice body feedback. The rear suspension, like a lot of vehicles in this class, is a little bit on the floatier end, just so it can kind of handle a little bit more load and the cargo and with passengers in the back. So I did notice that, but overall there's really no complaints here in the driving department. It's generally pretty quiet. Surprisingly, even with these chunky tires, you don't get road noise coming in here, which is a really wonderful thing to see. And going over bumps like this manhole cover here, or sewer drain actually, it really is actually rather well damped. There's no kind of crashingness coming into this cabin. For a mainstream vehicle, I think it's pretty well sorted out in how it drives. And another fun thing is you have a heated windscreen here, so there's little electrode lines throughout the entire windscreen, just unlike some higher end Land Rover or Range Rover, or some even Ford products even have this as well. This one's a little bit thinner in the elements, but at night I do notice it kind of reflects some stuff from light on other cars coming towards you. You kind of feel like it's like astigmatism or something in your eye, but it's just something you're gonna have to get used to. I got used to it over a week of driving, for example. The only downside I would say with this vehicle around town is just fuel economy this week has really been a bit, well, I guess not disappointing. It's kind of in line with the EPA figures. We've averaged 22.2 miles per gallon over the course of this week of testing. We have auto hold here as well as auto stop start. It's a very smooth auto stop start system, but you will know it actually turns down your climate control system a little bit, as there's no sort of 48 volt or hybrid system in this vehicle whatsoever to kind of counteract that. So if you don't want that on, you just press your button and turn off your auto stop start, but it is relatively of a smooth operation. Fuel economy hasn't been the best, like I mentioned, 22.2 MPG combined this week. This past few drives, they've all pretty much been in like the 24-ish range, which is in line with the EPA numbers actually of this vehicle. On the highway, I've been seeing 26, 27, again in line with these figures. And the regular gas Kia Sportage models that don't have these chunky off-road tires get a way better fuel economy, but it really is just these chunky tires that do hamper this vehicle's fuel economy just a bit. So if you don't really need this, you can go for the X line, not the X Pro that this is, to get this kind of visual appearance of this off-road-esque design without the chunky tires, and that will probably suit your needs a lot better if you're not really taking this on any sort of like gravel or dirt roads here and there. But my main recommendation for this Sportage is I'll just go straight for the hybrid. You're going to get way much more power, incredible amounts of range, and if you really want that plug-in capability, you have the plug-in hybrid Sportage as well that you can also opt for. Now, parking this Kia Sportage is pretty good. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of great 360 cameras here. We have a lot of nice space in this spot to parallel park, actually, so we can make it a little bit easier. But like I mentioned, the cameras are really great, so parking is a breeze in this Sportage X Pro Prestige with our fantastic 360 cameras. And when we come to a full stop here in just a second, I'll show you guys the insane amount of camera views we have in this vehicle. So as you can see, I'll reactivate my cameras. We not only have a 360 view around the vehicle, but we also have a really insane amount of just side view camera lenses here. You can see what's going on with your tires, and you can do the same with the rear as well. And they're all, as you can see, really crystal clear, as well as high frame rate as well, so things aren't lagging in this camera system whatsoever. And I love when turning off the vehicle, you get a really funky little sound that Kia plays when you open the door. Now, I do want to see what the traction management stuff happens when we go up this little cobblestone road here. Now, one thing I will note though is that these cameras in the Kia only turn on when we are in under 5 miles an hour, so they kind of become a little bit irrelevant in any off-roading scenario, since they only work when we are going under 5 miles an hour. So if you're really going to take this thing somewhere and you really want to see what's going on around the vehicle, you really got to go insanely slow. So we'll just do just that for a second to simulate. I'm going to put it into the front camera view here. You can see what's going on the front of the wheels area. We're actually using pretty even power split in all 4 wheels in an automatic setting here. And if I put it into, I guess there really isn't a specific terrain mode here. I guess snow or mud, it will see, it kind of will optimize our traction a little bit. I felt a little bit of a change in the revs there, but this is just a cobblestone road as a hill. I just wanted to see how these cameras would work here for you guys. But otherwise, traction on this car really surprised me this week. I've seen some pretty impressive off-road tests in Australia, actually, very similar versions of this vehicle, and they almost performed well, or even if not better than even like a Subaru Forester in some cases. And the suspension over this cobblestone road is fabulous. It's just absolutely fabulous. So really no complaints here with the Kia Sportage in some light bumpy settings. It does everything an SUV should, and if that hill was covered in some snow, I think it would actually handle it really, really well with this particular tire setup we have here. Okay folks, we're going to head out onto the highway here. I'll pop it into the sport mode, which does actually improve the throttle response quite a lot, as well as our gear shifts. No paddle shifters whatsoever on this vehicle, which is an interesting omission. A lot of competitors do offer paddle shifters, though we can manually shift this transmission, this 8-speed auto, via the shifter here in the center, but I'm just going to leave it in auto, as it 99% of the time will be left in. And let's get up to highway speed here. For handy dandy turn signal cameras here and blind spot, which are quite necessary in some scenarios, I think. Well, we didn't have a chance to really ring it out here. You can kind of hear in this sport mode, it holds gears for quite a long time before shifting. So definitely do not drive around in sport mode on a daily basis. It's really meant for those moments where you want that a little bit more of a quicker feeling and accepting acceleration situation. Passing on a highway, foot down. Yeah, it takes some time to get up to speed there. You can kind of see how it's holding those gears. A little bit of some confusion there in this 8-speed. So I'm gonna pop it right back over to normal mode, where it honestly just should be in. Otherwise, these terrain modes actually do make a little bit of a difference in your overall driving characteristics. As we saw earlier, mud mode, for example, turns on hill descent control automatically. So you're kind of already prepped for that in that scenario, and modifies your traction system. So on the highway out here, we automatically can turn on, if we would like, our steering and lane keep assistant function here, which is in this little button here with the steering wheel icon. We also do have an assisted page here we can see as well. So that's going to give us a little bit more of some nice information there. And it's going to hold down, if you hold down your OK button, it'll actually bring up your vehicle assistance settings, which is really handy if you want to make some adjustments there, obviously while you're parked. But I do like that feature where it's kind of like a quick shortcut icon. But as you can see, our lane keep assist and steering works really well. It can even take this corner all the way by itself right here. You're not supposed to have your hands off the wheel in this system, as it's not a hands-off system. But we're not even in adaptive cruise control right now, and we have this sort of, lane keep assist functionality here, which I think is really, really useful. Otherwise, we do have a really great highway driving assistant functionality, which is your adaptive cruise control. All you got to do is pop this little left button here up here and set your speed, and that's it. That is absolutely it. If you use the built-in Kia navigation and you have all the stuff set up, I think there's some sort of like navigation following distance feature now, but I think it's really just going to make you suggesting lane changes to go to certain directions. Otherwise, our distance adjustment is really easy. We have 4 distance adjustments here we can select from. So 4, 2, 3, 1, all like that. Really easy to do. I like how this shows our blind spot all around us as well, kind of showing vehicles coming next to us that we may not even be able to see. It's showing us in our display there. We don't have crazy advanced features though. So like I mentioned, we do not have hands-free. We don't have auto lane change, for example, but what it will do is it will deactivate your lane keep assist for a second when you activate a lane change with your turn stalk, so it's not nudging you in, and it will actually go down in gears you saw there and get you up to speed, which is quite nice. Some other cool things about this system is now we do actually have a more sensitive hand detection system. So if you don't have your hands on the steering wheel for an extended period of time, it will beep at you sooner than it did before for a little bit more of a safer overall driving experience here. And if you need to kind of make your own adjustments, you kind of just get onto the throttle or gas or brake, whatever you need there, and make that adjustment, and it'll go right back to your set speed in this system, which is nice. Generally, on the highway though, it's overall pretty quiet, I would say, as well. It feels a lot more sturdy and quieter in here than a typical Subaru Forester, for example. I find that vehicle to, you know, drive generally well. Performance isn't too far off from this particular model of this Kia Sportage, but this feels just a little bit more denser and solid overall as a vehicle body and platform than that car, which I think kind of aids to a little bit more confidence in some scenarios, even though these vehicles are really pretty closely matched. Comparing to something like a direct competitor to this particular model, which is, I would say, a CX-50 Meridian edition, even though that has a turbo badge on it now, with this particular price tag, they're very similar. That car feels even more sturdy, more premium, and more of a handling-esque vehicle. It's way more fun to drive. So that one, I think, is going to step a little bit into a different category, almost in between that, you know, mainstream and maybe premium-esque categories. But overall, this vehicle, I think, bridges these gaps really, really well. It's just overall very secure, neutral, very spacious, and confident driving on the highway, which is nice. And we do have our window shade closed up here, so I'm going to open it to see if this changes our audio any bit. And going over all these bumps, this is a really bumpy on-ramp. Handles it really well, very sturdy at all four corners. Damping is really impressive, actually. It kind of soaks up a lot of these bumps well. That's why it kind of reminds me a bit of the Forester's suspension. That's one of the vehicles in this class where I feel like it does a great job at soaking up a lot of bumps and doesn't feel overly stiff. So I think they do a good job at that. Wind noise doesn't change too much with this open. You can imagine if it was a little windier or raining, that could actually make a difference, because typically these shades provide a little bit of some additional sound insulation from the outside of the vehicle. And then in here, using some controls while you're on the highway is generally pretty easy. The touchscreen can be a little bit far out of reach sometimes, so that may be something to consider. You may have to sit a little bit closer. I actually can't reach it. I'm 6 feet tall in my current driving position, for example. Otherwise, this has been a pretty good week with the Kia Sportage X Pro Prestige. Should you consider updating it from the last gen or the pre-facelifted Kia Sportage that we actually tested on this channel? I would say yes. If you're from an older Sportage and you were looking at between the two, I think this one's going to be a little bit of a nicer upgrade. You may not like the styling, for example, but I think the wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, the upgraded software with over-the-air updates, and some of the other minor changes they made to this vehicle for this 2026 model year are worth the upgrades. I would still personally go for either the hybrid or plug-in hybrid over this particular vehicle, but then again, you lose this X Pro trim, which is exclusive to this particular just pure gas engine. So you get a lot of choices in the Kia Sportage lineup, and all of them are getting that 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, of course limited over at Kia, which is still a really great selling point in this class. And they've been performing really well, selling really well, and doing a great job for Kia. There is an all-new model, obviously, as all these cars have, coming probably 2-3 years from now. So I think this is a smart buy if you're looking across the segment and don't want anything too outrageously, you know, off-roady, such as a Forester Wilderness or a Bronco Sport in some of the higher trims, and you don't want anything too extra soft, such as the CR-V Trailsport or Nissan Rock Creek. I think this paves a good middle ground, offering great amenity of features and some class exclusive features that you're not really going to find as well. So good job, Kia. Pricing isn't too out of this world as well for this fully loaded model. I also do want to point out our audio system in this particular Kia Sportage. We have a Harman Kardon audio system in here, and I don't think it's the particular strong suit of this vehicle. I'll play our typical test track here, but I've definitely heard some better audio systems in this segment, in this, even the top spec trims and lower spec trims of this segment. So I'll have a little bit of a go of our test track here, and I will give some quick thoughts afterwards. We have a volume adjustment down here as well as on the steering wheel, both really good hand placements there as well. up a quick little test of our audio track here. You know, I find this audio system to generally be okay, but if you're listening to louder music, as you just heard, it kind of gets a little fuzzy sometimes if you really push the volume limit, and it just has this little bit of a hollow-esque feeling to pretty much every track, and even throughout the equalizer and different settings I've played around with, it doesn't have the most full sound, but generally I think it's a fine system. Nothing really noteworthy though in this Kia Sportage X Pro Prestige. And as always, thank you guys for joining us on yet another video over at Allcarnews, and stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.